Well, hello everyone, and we're back again. This is Haunted Hearsay. I'm Caroline, and we
Yeah.
join with Ben. Hi,
Hello.
Ben.
How's it going?
It's been another wee while. Our breaks are getting longer and longer and longer. But we are. It's not that we aren't doing. It's just what life is intervening, and then the two of us are very lazy normally when it comes to the evening.
Mm.
I know
And we
that's my
um, and
excuse.
we work hard during the day.
Well, you do.
Okay.
I don't work hard, not
You do
anymore. I used
sometimes.
to. I don't need to anymore.
Yeah, true.
I'm
You
bloody
flogged
loaded.
it.
I have a fortune. No actual money, but lots of other things.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was actually. Do you know what I was looking into? I mentioned to you. We've been doing haunted hearsay now for over a year, and well, a year and a half now. It's nearly 2 years, isn't it?
A
It
year and a
is nearly
half, I
two
think.
years. Wow. And I've been gathering stories around Donegal since I was a child. I remember my grandmother telling me stories, my Granny Gillespie, who lived at the top of the road here, top of the lane, and telling me stories about the fairies and ghosts and things like that around here. And I thought I knew an awful lot of the folklore. I'm no spring chicken. I've been around a while. But I only found out recently, and this is from a guy from Belfast who comes here on holiday, to the top of the lane, in fact, as well, that told me about this portal there is in Ardsbeg, which is just further around the coast here from where I am in Gidor.
hmm
And I couldn't believe I'd never heard of it before. Now, I did go on the site. There are lots of well, not lots of photographs, but there are photographs, but they're all copyrighted. So
Right, you can
I
take them.
couldn't show anything. So I just wanted to
Yeah.
mention it because the next opportunity I get, I'm going to go around and take photographs myself.
hmm
Now, I'm hoping that that won't be a problem because I believe it's on private property and it's someone from Belfast that's bought it.
Oh,
So
okay.
I think they're the one. I think the guy that had it before kept it very quiet that there was a portal there, didn't want to draw attention to it.
Mm.
And we spoke about this before because do you remember when we were doing no, not to the point, not me, sorry, but when you were doing the film for the Banshees
hmm
and fairies,
Yeah.
and we went round to, oh, by the way, Pat Bunn, do you remember the man that took us round to the Holy Well and round to Mullajerk to
hmm
the Banshee Stone? He
Yeah.
passed away during the week.
Oh, really? Really?
Yeah, so I mean, oh, he
Oh.
was such a lovely man, and he was just such a fountain of information.
hmm
He really was.
Oh,
He'll be missed, and so I'm very glad that we got the opportunity to talk to him. I'm
see
pretty sure
him.
you haven't recorded, haven't
I have
you?
a really short video.
Yeah.
Uh,
So I mean, it'll be nice to hope. But anyway, I remember him taking us round to where the Banshee Stone was in Mullajerok, and we really wanted to do something about it. Other local people were, remember the postman, etc. We were going to put up a plaque, and the
mm.
guy that owned the land had put all these bushes and trees round where the Banshee Stone is, and put a fence right up beside it
hmm
because it was. Now he's since passed. I don't mind telling this story. God rest his soul. But he done the same thing because you'll never get the land sold. If
Yeah.
people think you've got like a banshee stone or, and then
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
obviously the same. This fella that had this house beforehand in Ardsbeg had kept it quiet about there being apparently there was two of them. There was a big one and a smaller one. And the bigger,
Okay.
maybe the smaller one was for, burying children or whatever. I don't know. But apparently the man that lived there knocked it down.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And the big one that's there, there's like a cross carved into one of the giant rocks.
Okay.
And that's a bit derelict. But I think
Mm.
the guy that's now bought the house is intent on keeping it as is, not letting it go anymore, etc. So
Yeah.
we'll definitely, when we get the opportunity, I'll go around myself and take some pictures.
hmm
So we can't show any pictures at the moment. But if anybody Googles it, it's very interesting and it's where it's every time I tell a story or do something locally, I still hear something new.
Yeah. Well, we're in such an old part of the country that's kind of untouched and forgotten, you know. There's a lot of history. Like they just found a Bronze Age uh dolmen or something down in the west as well in the Burren, like a huge big fortress thing and that
Really?
nobody knew about. from the Bronze Age. So, you know, it's
Well, I mean, there's no dating on the one in Artsbeg, so God knows how old it is.
yeah,
And
yeah,
there were
exactly.
people along the coast here before there were people inland in Ireland.
Hmm.
Because Ireland was all at one time covered in forest, but it was, I mean, not a forest people could live in.
Yeah, dense forests,
Yes, it was dense forest, and there were bears and
wolves.
wolves, and
Mm.
bears actually. I think the bears didn't die out until around, or not. I was going to say Tudor times.
Oh, right. I
I'm
didn't
not
even
sure.
know we had
Something in the
bears.
back of my head. Anyway, I digress. We're going on to something else. But I just wanted to bring that up tonight because it is something I thought people want to have a look. I'm definitely go when I get an opportunity. I'm going to go around and take some pictures of, or the next time you're over, we'll go
Yeah,
around
I'll
and take
hopefully
some
be over
pictures.
in a few weeks.
Yeah, if you get over next week, sure, maybe
Yeah,
when the weather's good,
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
we'll go and
Um,
annoy our neighbours. See how they'll let us in and take pictures.
yeah.
Did you
Uh,
say you did some clips for us?
I do. I've got 3 clips. I have one about Edgar Cayce. I don't know if you know Edgar Cayce.
No.
Maybe we'll start with that one.
Who is he?
Edgar Cayce. I'll get up his Wikipedia. So, Edgar Cayce was born in 1877 in Kentucky, and he was a clairvoyant and healer. I think we'll show the video first, and then we can
Okay.
we can go into. So I'm just going to do my screen share.
Right. Okay. Edgar Cayce, you have a pick. And how did you come across him?
I'd heard about him before. Basically, Edgar Cayce is a sort of controversial figure in the sense that a lot of people believe in him, a lot of people don't believe in him. Here we go. I'm pretty sure this. Can you see that little TikTok screen?
Yes, I can. Yeah.
Very good. Okay, I think this will give a bit of an overview.
All right.
He
Okay.
was dubbed the sleeping prophet by the New York Times. He discovered he could sleep on books and memorize them. Cayce said there was a sort of record floating around in the universe. He called it the Akashic record. He said that as things occur, everything from thoughts to actual actions in the universe, it sends out a vibration. And that vibration can be read a lot like the grooves in a record can be read. And it was accessible, he said, to everyone, but you had to tune your mind into it.
So that was short and sweet.
Yeah.
But yeah, I wanted to give a little, I guess, a little overview, without getting too
Was
dense.
that his profession, a clairvoyant, or was he involved in?
Yeah, so he was sort of like a doctor, but also a clairvoyant. So he used to would get into a trance and then tell people while he slept what was wrong with them. So he answered questions on a variety of subjects like healing, reincarnation, dreams, afterlife, past lives, nutrition, and future events. He was a devout
What
Christian.
future events did he?
Well, he was known as the sleeping prophet, so there was a ton of futures events. Basically, at one point, he had a assistant who would write down everything. Because he did it while he was sort of in a trance.
Mm-hmm.
And his wife used to write things down. So there's actually a Edgar Cayce like library in America that's just full of all his, I guess his premonitions. I think there's a hospital. That's it. They set up a hospital. So it was like it was kind of a cross between medical and clairvoyancy, which I think is kind of interesting.
Now, I have heard of people doing prophecy in this way before, but I can't say that I've heard his name particularly. I could have done, but I certainly don't remember.
He died in 1945.
Right. Okay. Did he write
And
any books about it, or?
a lot of books, I think. Well, he has a whole library. So, so let me see. Yeah, the Sleeping Prophet. I think he'd probably be one of the most well known in America because people believed him, and he was also a devout Christian. So there's sort of an interesting dichotomy there.
It's not really. When you think, you go back to any other people like that since or before, there's always a real spiritual connection with God. I mean, Nostradamus, who was brought up in two different religions, he was taught Judaism as well as Christian, being a Catholic. No, was he a Catholic? He wasn't. He was a
Well, in
French
France,
Protestant
if
and
he was,
French Protestant and
okay.
Judaism. But then he practiced and he learned about all religions. But he had a great belief in God, and you'll find that with other people that have made I mean, it's not that you don't believe in God, that if you can do this, that's it's how it's interpreted.
Yeah. I think I guess that at some point the church, or even in America, I think they see it as sort of demonic to be able to do stuff like that. Like,
I know, but I mean,
like he died in 1945, so that
we're
was
talking
probably
a country where you've got like absolute zealots when it comes to the Baptists and some of the things they do, and then the ones involved with them that take in boxes of snakes and let's see how many times we can be bitten and God will save us. And seriously, find God's looking at them going, yeah, but maybe not this time. God looking at them, it's natural selection, that.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know, when it comes to Americans, there are a lot of zealousy over different things. I mean, when they're into something, they are committed full time to it.
Yeah.
There's no truth. But something, having said that as well, it's have you noticed just the amount of every time now? It's been a couple of months since we were on Easter. But even since then, the amount of alien sightings that are now all over the world, that are coming out from various supposed government agencies in different countries.
Well, that's what our next video is about.
Is it? Oh, very good. Let's get to that.
Let's get straight into it. So I'll share this. Can you see it?
Yes, I can, yeah.
Aliens exist and President Trump knows about it. That's according to Israel's former space security chief. In an interview with an Israeli newspaper, he said the aliens have been waiting until today for humanity to develop and reach a stage where we will understand in general what space and spaceships are. NBC News chief global correspondent Bill Neely explains this one.
Hi, Alison. Well, this is quite a story, and it comes from the man who headed Israel's space security program for nearly 30 years. Chaim Eshed is making the extraordinary claim that the United States and Israel have been in contact with a group of aliens for years, not immigrants, but extraterrestrials. He has called them the Galactic Federation of Aliens, and he says President Trump is aware of the existence of these aliens and had been on the verge of revealing their secrets, he claims, but was asked not to do so by the Federation in order to prevent what he calls mass hysteria.
Okay, so mass hysteria. Now, obviously, this is a little bit old because Trump hasn't been president in America for a while.
Well, do you know, it's funny that you should play that particular one. I was literally thinking about it earlier, like when I was flicking through to see if I could see anything more current to do with alien sightings. And I thought, like, the amount of stories that all of a sudden, and they're coming from, supposedly legit, sort of agencies, etc. It's why? Because I mean, we the people are always the last to know anything. That's just a given when it comes to governments everywhere. We the people are the last to know. But what is it that they've seen, or what is it that's happened in the last few years that all of a sudden they've decided maybe it's time to start, like, putting out feelers to see how people react, because there's something coming.
Well, I was listening to a thing last night on Coast to Coast AM, which is an American sort of paranormal radio show. And it was an old interview with a guy that used to be, I'm pretty sure he was a journalist, a retired journalist, but he kind of focused on UFOs and stuff in the 80s was sort of their prime, 1983. And he was talking about this well-known guy called Bob Lazar. And Bob Lazar is like a scientist who claims to have worked at Area 51. He's like an Area 51 whistleblower, but the most credible one, if that makes sense, or the only credible one, or I don't know if he's even credible, but people seem to. He's kind of polarizing as well. Some people think it's he's talking crap. Other people think it's real. So, but this journalist
guy that was on there. Now, I mean, the one thing we've got to point out when you take something like that from either TikTok or YouTube, these are not this particular Israeli scientist's pictures. These are pictures that YouTube have put up.
Oh, this is somebody on TikTok.
Yes,
and also
exactly.
shout out to
these pictures. So these are not pictures that this man's said, oh, this is what they look like, and this is,
yeah.
I'm sure it's his words. And it's and it's that element of doubt is thrown in when you see pictures like that added to it.
Yeah, well, the radio thing I was listening to last night, they were saying that the guy was saying that he thought Bob Lazar might, because he was a whistleblower to him and he was a journalist, and he thought that it could have been the American Secret Service trying to purposely leak the information back in the 80s, but then at the last minute they stopped it because they didn't think people could handle it, kind of thing.
I think you're right. I think you're right in that respect. I think it's something that, I mean, if they're starting to leak it, it's not because of something that's happened just now recently. It's the case, but I mean, I have a funny feeling it's why the timing now is like they've had loads of time to let us know it's something imminent.
Maybe.
I mean, there's a possibility. I mean, this guy in Israel, I mean, 30 years he worked for the Israeli space station. So he has to have some sort of credibility.
Or the space agency, yeah.
I mean, he didn't get that position because he was a bit, out there.
There's also another very famous kind of government whistleblower that started talking before it all came out recently, was the Canadian Minister of Defence.
Right, okay.
I'll try and get his name up. He released, there was a thing called the Disclosure Project where loads of people, mostly military people, were brought together to basically to be whistleblowers and leak the information. And I don't think anyone paid any attention at the time. I think that was probably about 10 years ago, the Disclosure Project. But this guy was part of that, and he was the Canadian Minister of Defense, and he was saying that aliens existed and that UFOs. But the thing about that is that video I showed, that man is saying that the Americans and the Israelis are talking to the aliens. They're not just saying.
I wouldn't say it's just the two governments.
No, but it's interesting.
I really wouldn't say it's just the two governments, because that's almost trying to make it sound like we are the chosen two.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, this guy is called Paul Hellyer. The if anyone wants to look into what he said before, he was years of service, blah blah blah. Oh, he's very old now.
I mean, you just have to wonder. I mean, there's a lot of people coming out of the woodwork this last few years. It seems to have been highlighted more during COVID because everyone's had more time to sit and do it.
They just can't hide it now. I mean, like before they could say that, oh, it's a weather balloon, but now everyone has HD cameras in their pockets.
Yes, exactly. Nearly everyone has a mobile phone.
Satellites, and here they're going back to the moon soon as well. NASA, I mean, I think the Chinese have been back already, but that's actually another thing I wanted to mention, is that Buzz Aldrin,
yes,
the
astronaut,
he admitted that when they landed on the moon that they saw aliens, but he kept it secret a long time. He didn't want to talk about aliens for a long time, and
but even now, people would be ridiculed. People, especially in a position of power and things like that. I mean, it is the first thought that comes into your head when you hear someone in a position of power saying things like that. You're automatically like, oh, have you lost the plot a wee bit? Yeah. Or is there really some substance to this?
Well, I think these days it's more you're
I
less
think
likely-
something's about to happen. I think something has happened that maybe, I don't know. I just feel like there's a reason, and we're going to be the last to know about it, but there's a reason why it's been leaked so
Well,
much.
I have a theory, but I don't know. It's
Go ahead.
so a lot of people think that there is like a secret base or alien structure or something under the ice in the Antarctic, and
I
there's
have
like
heard that before, yeah.
some evidence to suggest that if you watch these programs on TV, and since the ice is melting, and maybe since like cameras are getting better and satellites are getting better, and I think they're going to just start finding things on Mars and like structures, and like
Well, you know,
they
my
won't,
theory
they
on
just
Mars
won't be
is
able to
that,
deny it.
yeah, I feel there's definitely at least one species of human came from Mars originally, fled a dying planet and came to the nearest to them.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that, and they landed on a fledgling planet
Yeah.
that was still settling, so still lots of, you know, earthquakes and volcanic eruptions and things like that. Maybe they didn't survive too long here, but I do believe that they made a carbon footprint here.
Mm.
Because I mean, it's really sort of, I mean, they're discovering things all the time. There's been footprints carbon dated 150,000 years ago in
Mhm.
various areas in Turkey. Now, we know that carbon dating is pretty accurate. But I mean, who's to say that it doesn't go back further? So, I mean, I do have that theory. I mean, we know that there were 7 to 8 different species of man. We've all basically blended into one, you know, and sort of the strongest survived, as it were. Some species died out completely,
Mhm.
and we have what we have today.
There's also a
But
gap in evolution as well. That
yes, I do believe that it's very possible that we, you know, part of us came from a different species that came from a different planet.
and then a lot of people think that in ancient Sumeria, because they were like the first farming or agricultural community, that they were taught how to be agricultural by their leader, who may or may not have been a hybrid alien.
Well, everything in ancient history, whether it's like ancient Greek or Roman or Egyptology, everything refers to these deities that come from the sky for different reasons, to teach them different things.
Yeah.
And I mean, the terminology that they have used is just that terminology for what that's how they described it. That's what it was to them. That's not to say that these weren't real.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, it's like, you know, I mean, if you go back here 100 years in this country and you ask somebody to explain a mobile phone, a computer, and they'd look at you, and how would they explain it? They'd have to do it in their own terminology. They've never heard of all the things that we, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to think of it like that.
Yeah.
That, you know, when they're talking about people coming from the sky, in our religion, it's angels, etc.
Mm-hmm.
And most religions, it's angels, and then people that don't believe in religion, it's deities.
Yeah.
You know, there's any amount of deities that came, that one for this, one for that.
Well, a lot of people believe that there are multiple alien races, and some of those races, one of the ones that people think exists, is sort of like humanoid. They look like humans, but they also kind of look angelic. You know, they've got very pale white skin and like light hair, and
Could not just like I said, be a species of human that came from another planet?
Yeah,
it came here, you know, thousands of years ago.
Or even more like meta, it could be the future of humanity returning, because time.
I have another theory. What happens if only half of them came here and the other half fled somewhere else?
Yeah, and
they're the ones that have been monitoring the progress of the people that came here and how they integrated with the other species of human that was here.
exactly. And like,
That there is that possibility. I don't think it's going to be something as scary and as the way films in Hollywood would have you believe, these
yeah.
sort of little green guys that want to do nothing but probe you, etc.
Well, I think they probably exist as well. Like, I think
I don't think it's sort of like the hideous depictions that we see. I think they've got to look something similar to us. I think life has got to evolve in other planets in a similar way that it's evolved here. Because the one thing we know is that's how life does evolve. It's been studied. It takes photosynthesis. It takes the sun. It takes the right amount of air. It takes, to have living, breathing things. There's a similarity.
have
So
you
they have to
seen
be similar to us at least.
the movie Prometheus?
Yes, it did. Yeah,
And is that to do with aliens?
it is.
Yeah.
And it's like an ancient humanoid race again. I think there is. I mean, that's fiction, but I mean, it's like all of these things. They're based on people's. They're based
Well,
on.
it's also Ridley Scott who kind of knows his stuff, do you know?
Yeah, but that's what I mean. It's when people are doing the research for these things, everyone's theory is just as valid because that's what they are, the theories. But I mean, they're based on a lot of information we've been given now down the years from scientists.
Exactly, yeah.
But the possibility isn't, I mean, the possibility that we're here alone in the universe is even harder to believe.
Yeah.
Like, it really is, like, such
really
a small, I mean, we're the third smallest planet in our own solar system.
Well, if it goes on for infinity and beyond,
I mean, we haven't been able to explore really outside our own solar system. And we've got another solar, Andromeda is right next to it. We can see it sometimes in the night sky, but we haven't even got that far.
And we've got that giant new telescope that's apparently very good, the James Webb. I think is that what it's called?
Yeah.
There's a new telescope that just got sent out into the into space, and it's going to be like it can see as far as we've ever been able to see. So,
wow. Did you say you had another clip?
One very short clip, and we can leave it at that.
Yeah.
That can be our ending note. This one is a spooky poltergeist one, but it's pretty tame. I'll show you. Again from TikTok. All the handles are below if anyone wants to go and check out these people's videos themselves on TikTok. Okay, here we go.
He's not catching ball with you? Yeah. You need somebody to play ball?
That's it, basically, but kind of scary.
That is actually very scary. And something that says reaction?
Yeah, exactly.
The one where that is set up would be going to investigate to show you that there's no string. This guy sort of looked and went, no thanks.
And he's talking to his kid at the same time, so it's not really like acting. But okay, on that note.
Yes, on that note, I know it was a bit shorter tonight. We do have still a lot more to cover, and we will do it, and we'll be back sooner rather than later this time.
Yeah.
We'll get more. The next time you call over to visit, we'll be able to gather more pictures.
Yeah, we'll go over to the portal.
Yes, that's definitely on the cards. So on that note, we're going to say good night, and we'll talk to everyone soon. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe. And if you're not signed into YouTube, you can't like and share. So I've discovered that's really aimed at my peer group.
You can share
the ones that don't have a YouTube account.
Not to worry though. We just want to chat.
Right. Okay. So Hawaii from Gidor and Ben Hawaii from YouTube.
From Ballyshannon.
Okay.
See you
Bye.
later. Bye.